And how about thinking that while after going to US, I would be meeting an iconic personality, maybe Steve Jobs. So our next guest, who is going to talk to us, has not only seen and realized all these dreams, but he has also been a very successful serial entrepreneur. So we are privileged to have Mr. Abhay Jain amongst us to talk to us. So before I invite Abhay Jain here, let's remember wise words of Mr. Colin Powell. Mr. Colin Powell once said that dreams cannot be realized through magic. You will have to give sweat, determination, and hard work before any dream can be realized. So I'm very positive that the life story of Abhay would inspire us on what should be our path for success. And with that message, I'm very happy, and please join me in welcoming Abhay on stage. Abhay, please.
I want to thank you, Rajesh and Mr. Reddy, for inviting me for this presentation. And of course, he told a lot more than I could ever say about myself. But my journey started, like he said, in India, and I was an engineer and come here in 2000. And luckily, I got a lot of very different opportunities to be part of the Silicon Valley innovation, and did something which I could. So I want to start my journey, especially in this campus. I got a very big opportunity to meet with Mr. Jobs. Computing system beyond the PC in those days. So the internet was a big thing. The PC was the only innovation in this side, and mostly the PDA, the Palm PDAs, and all those things what everybody was using. But when we create the dual core, we come up with this whole new idea. Why not PDA and computers are combined in your pocket, and you can put it out and you can use it. And now you see that this computation power of the iPad and the smartphones are exactly doing that. So we did that thing in 2001, and we come to meet with a lot of great leaders, and especially Steve Jobs. And that meeting was very funny. We were sitting there explaining that how good we are doing, how good design we have done and everything, and we were talking about patents. And as an engineer, I was excited because I wrote a couple of those patents, and I was telling how good this patent is. And he asked me at that time, what good does it do? And as an engineer, and I was saying how good bit rate it is and how fast it goes and all these kind of things. And after 1 minute or so, he said, okay, you don't know what does it do. And I couldn't say anything because that time I couldn't realize what that means. And the story changed my life, because after that my quest was to find it out what I'm doing and what good does it do. And that's the inspiration time, that's the big inspiration I took, a single question from the Steve Jobs that kind of helped me to change my life. So I'm going to share one more story, a couple of different stories about my past, which helped me to kind of think about innovation in a different way, think about what I'm doing in a totally different way. So, they say leaders are born, not created in some way. Sometimes you say this is true, sometimes it's not, but some of the story in your life actually help you to understand about yourself. And one of the biggest story for me was my thrive for knowledge. I was thriving for the knowledge, and the reason for that was I was dyslexic. I still have the problem, I cannot write the words properly, and mostly I see the patterns when I read. So the good part of that was I was able to read a lot. I mean, from the age of probably 7 or 8, I was starting to read all the books, all the religion, philosophy, history, geography, and I used to read a lot. But when I reached to a town, a very small town, I don't know if you know that Devban is a very small town where I grew up. In there was only one library, and that was closed for about 8 years. And I said, they have about 100,000 books in the library, and that was closed for 8 years. There was so many knowledge, and I can't get to that. So I go to the municipality with my father and say, how we open this library? And they said, if you can get 2,000 signatures in the town of 50,000, and you can make sure somebody is there every single day in the library for a year, then we will open it forever. I mean, at least as long as they can see. And that was it. and I was about 10 years old, and this was a big task. I mean, 2,000 signature, getting that, and then making sure somebody sits for a year for a 10-year-old was not a thing which we want to, I mean, at least I cannot foresee that. So what I did is I get to my school, I write the paper on my copies, like petition, and I give to every single person in my class and the school next to it, and I try to get their signature. I said, let's go door to door, knock every door, tell them why we need these books, and go to these libraries, and open these libraries. And in 2 weeks, we got 2,000 signatures. And that was a very, very big deal at that time. We go to the municipal, the guy there, and he opened the door, finally. And the first week, the whole school go there and try to dust the whole books, try to clean it up. And we did all this work to open the library. And after that, everybody in the school make a plan. And even the teachers and the principal was so supportive. They help us to go there. And we opened the library for a very long time, and there were a lot of good books, especially the first introduction to the computer was there. They talk about the binary language in some of the books in those days, and that was my first introduction to the computer, and that was fascinating. And that helped me to think about computer, this whole system, and it leads to the whole leadership, which I know as is, like what leadership could do. You have power, you have an enormous power to mobilize resources, to mobilize every single person and tell them what could be achieved if we all work together. And that's the part of leadership you learn from your experience, and you can always use for some good purpose. The second story which I want to share is being true to yourself. And this is very, very, very hard lesson you learn in your life. And one of the very first things is when I come to this country, my skills, given that English was already a second language and it was a big difficult time to pass an interview when you come in this country. So I didn't come for school, I didn't come for, after GRE and learning all those things, I just come for work. So I sold my company in India and I came here. So at that time, it was very hard for me to pass the interview, so my employer gave a very simple proposition to one of the client called Iware. He said, give him a problem, he will solve it. He might not be able to pass the interview, nothing understand, but he will definitely solve this problem. So they said, okay, we are working on this problem, we anticipate about 2 months of time, and if he can solve in 2 months, he can stay. So I took that back. I said, no problem, we will do that. I go there, they told me the problem, and after 4 hours, the problem was solved. And it was a surprising experience for myself and for them. But I talked to my employer, I said, after 4 hours, the problem is solved. What do I do now? He said, shh, just sit there for a week, don't talk to anybody. And just, and after a week, tell them that you are done. And first I went there and I thought about that and I said, no, I cannot do that. I mean, I finished the work, I know this is the right thing to do, to tell my managers that this is done and they should be moving forward. And my employer was saying, no, you should not be doing that. So ultimately I take a chance, I say, okay, whatever happened, what's the worst case scenario? I don't get fired or they won't give me anything, so that's fine. So I go to my CTO, I told him this is the solution, and he was saying, are you done? Are you sure? Are you tested? He put 100 questions in front of me, and the next day did the whole testing, it works out well. So third day, there was a decision time. And true to myself, I know that I'm gonna probably lose the whole job, and this was the first job, and then you have to start this whole process again, and in a new country, it's just not an easy thing to do. The third day, I got a news, and the HR manager and the CTO was sitting in the room, and they were telling me, would you like to become the director of R&D? And I was expecting the other way around. I was expecting that they're gonna throw me out, and they offered me this position, and I was amazed. And they said, we understand that you have a very good knowledge of discrete math, and this is the problem you solve, and this, and we want to start with you. And I took that offer, and that changed again my life. And the hardest part, and the big lesson I learned from this experience is, be true to yourself. If you want, whatever people say, whatever people tell you that, do this way, or this is the right way to go, listen to your heart and go with that. And that actually creates a opportunity for you most of the time. And the good part of that was, the company got sold. Everybody make money in that time, 2000 was a good time. And then my CTO, he started the next company, and I was the very first person which was invited as a software head. So from software developer to the director of R&D to the whole software in charge, within 6 months was a big opportunity for me, and that actually created a path to get there. And that was just because of one thing: be true to yourself. Third thing, I little bit want to talk about this articulation of history. And most of us forget, and most of us think that past is past. We have to think about future, and in the Valley we have a big obsession that we always want to think future. But you have to think sometime going back and think how this thing happened, why we reached to this point where we are sitting here and thinking about future. And that goes to the, how you create your vision. And in this one, I have a very interesting story, and this was my own product development. In 2002, I started Jinwani System, and I was struggling what really I do. And I started the company, and I will tell you the little bit story about that too, why it happened. But interesting part was I was sitting in a company and try to think how I can create a new product, and I have no idea at that time. So I go back to the history, and the very first thing I learned in there, how the HP get started, how the HP created this whole Silicon Valley. And the simple thing was they created the testing equipment. The very first thing they created was almost a testing equipment which was successful, and World War II happened, and at that time the equipment, the oscillators they created, those are the one which helped US to create the whole fleet, and they were one of the successful in the war. So this particular whole historical evidence says that testing equipment has a market. So I took that thing from the history and constantly evolve on that, what they did right, what they did wrong, where they find the opportunity, or anybody in this space did that. And the outcome of that was my own product. And it comes out, the testing product is one of the big challenge. And that everybody, we all are software engineers, and I personally am. And whenever you see a hardware or machine working, you assume that it will work. But reality is nothing works in first time, or at least not in a development environment. And especially if you're doing something next generation, you don't even know what problem you're gonna see. The testing equipment was the very first thing you want to see, you want to have, so that you can test what's gonna happen next. But think about how the testing guys know about that. They don't. But they have to think about the future of those devices or protocols, all these things, way before even the products are developed. Give them a very reliable platform so that you can develop another reliable product. And this is how I even work with Apple, not directly, but through the Porter Player. And one of the Porter Player was the very first company, and the TI and Broadcom, a couple of other companies, who actually put all this resource together to test SD card, SDIO interface, and the testing equipment which I have created. And through that I worked in the iPod, iPhone, a couple of these products later. So all these things happen, but the whole inspiration comes from history. And even today, one of the things which I like to do probably every day, read something about history, because it tells you very specific. The human limitations, human always try to come over their limitation. And they always try much harder, and every generation did much better than previous one. But there are a lot of failures, and there are a lot of successes. But how the successes are built on the failure, that's something you learn from the history. You learn what is the situation of every single person, what type of decision somebody has taken, and it's a eye-opening experience. So the way I see always is every time I look at the history and I see the vision for the future product, and it continue to do. It continue to help me to think about this thing. And the last thing I want to talk a little bit about logic versus passion. We are engineers and we love logic, and we want everything logical. If there is a decision, it has to be logical. We don't want our passion and our emotions to be overriding all these things. But the reality is creating this balance in this most difficult situation is tough. It's really tough. And I faced this situation in 2001 when the dual core with the company we were working, and everybody told that this is too early in the market, this device not going to take off, and we had about $1.5 million. We burned all this money making this hardware, software, everything, and after that we closed the company. And now there were two choices. Either you go, and the economy was bad. I think, I don't know how many of you see that time, but it was a bad time of economy. And almost every month I was, I had the SUV, so I was having this SUV. My friends were, putting all the luggage in there, and I was dropping them to the airport consistently. And this was a very bad time. In those times, I had two choices. The logical choice was, I just buy, do everything from here, go to India. There was a good job market, and you come from US, so you can always get a good job there. So I could have go there. But that time, I started the Genuine system. And the Genuine system, the whole thing was, I was feeling after doing this old company, the dual core, that there is a need. We just can't even find that need, and we cannot serve this innovation. Somehow we need to do something more. And I was completely passionate about this one thing. I had to create something. I cannot go out of this country without doing and making a mark in this country. And this was just impossible for me. And at that time, no income, and only option was 45 days, either your visa expire or you do something. So at that time, the Genuine system, I said, okay, I find out all the rules. Can I do my own visa in my own company? I did that. After all these things, we started to think about product, how go to all these basics of creating the product, and the passion was just to do something which can create a mark, and that's all I follow. And at the end, it empowered me, and it empowered me in a very different way. And the thing which I learned from this experience was, you can lose everything any point of time. And like Mr. Jobs says in one of the commencement speech in Stanford, is death is the ultimate place which you fear about. You can lose anything and you can't go back. But you come to this close many times in your life to the where you feel like you're going to lose everything. But at that time, if you can survive, your passion or your emotions can help you to guide you in certain way where you can use your strength. You can always find a way and empower yourself to take chance again and again and again. And that is required. That is very, very important. And the most important thing I want to say, is just by chance it's coming up as a LOVE, but you have to love what you do. Most important lesson is that you have to love what you do. And I can't emphasize enough on this particular part, because at some point of time, the whole work or all the things which you do becomes like a marriage, and you fight and your kids is going and you can't you try to wake up early morning and up to the late and all this crankiness going around you, and then you say, I want to quit this thing, I don't want this life. And many times this happens, especially when you're an entrepreneur and running your own company. And that time, then you remember why I did this thing. Because I love this thing. I want to create these products, or I love this technology. I want to change something in the society, or make my mark. Some passion, some love will always help you to continue what you want to do. And this will be the foundation of what you do. I mean, in the future, every time when you fall in love with the product and the things or anything which you do, that will help you to focus and achieve certain new things. Otherwise, it's very easy to quit. I mean, you can always say, this is too hard, too difficult, and this is not going in my way, this is not what I planned, and I lose my money, and I lose all these things. But it's very hard to continue. And this is where you will need all the love you can get from your passion, from your empowerment, from your leadership, from the people around you. Make sure you help them, they help you, and you love what you do, and you love who are around you, and they help you to get to the next phase in your life. So, as I have to talk a little bit about innovation as well, what is really innovation? And I put a question mark in there. And the reason I put a question mark, because we are a society right now which every single thing has to be disruption, it has to be highly innovative, it has to look for future. All this thing has to be there. I mean, it's like necessary evil which you have to have. But what comes in, what's the invention and what's the innovation? And I want to talk a little bit about innovation. So the way I see, and you must be seeing this thing a lot more often, is, everybody talks about connected car. Car is a simple way to go from one point A to point B, and it's faster than bicycle, so that's why you do that, and it's slower than plane, so that's why you cannot go too far. So it's like between these distances you go from point A to point B. But the reality is you spend about 2 hours of your life every day in a car. This is an average. The 2 hours of your time, what this car can you do to make it productive? Do we think about that? What are the things which can make sure in 2 hours you don't get accident? Then in 2 hours, what could happen which can help you to manage either your home, your kids, your life, or your work? In any way, can these 2 hours be utilized in a better way? And our whole focus right now is just on a couple of things. Oh, you have 1,000 sensors in the car, you have 20 computers in the car, how to manage all these things and put a nice dashboard around that and all these things. But this is not the innovation. Innovation will come from the fact when this human element start to connect with every single piece of this 2 hour and in this car and create a mechanism or create a system where you can feel that your life is useful in the car. It feels like home, or it feels like what you're gonna be, how much it will be helping you to do certain things. And that's where the innovation will come from. I mean, we are still scratching the surface on all these areas which we are calling it next generation, next this thing. But how to think about that? So the thing which I want to talk to you about is how you think about that. And question you have to ask again, what good does it do? What good this car do to you? Or whatever system you put it inside, what good does it do? The same thing goes to wearables. I mean, probably half of you are probably wearing some kind of a wearables, Bluetooth or some Fitbit and all. And in life sciences, this is a very important area. Everybody wants to monitor how much calorie I burn, although they do, and now you have the glasses, how much water you take, how much coke you take. All these wearables, right now again, we are at the point where just know how to capture the data. But a lot of things has to happen. How it's going to change your life. Why you are paying the healthcare cost, why you are eating certain way, or what's your eating habits, or what your exercise habits. Everything has to change just because it has to do something good for you. Anything which is just a hardware or piece of just code going around, it's not going to help anybody. It has to do some good. And this is where the innovation has to happen. The big area, of course, is smart home. You heard a lot of news, Dropcam is acquired, Nest is acquired, and a lot of big money is floating around. But again, you have to go back to the same thing. There are a lot of issues. I mean, do you want a cam in your bedroom and Google know everything what you do in there? Or do you want a system where you can be protected from the intruders or this abuse to the kids or things like that? So a lot of innovation we just see, okay, you get the big money because you create a cam and you put the data in the cloud. Is that good enough? No, it's not. You have to think about what good does it do. And there are a lot more to happen in these areas. Of course, life sciences, I mean, everybody knows, I don't know to explain. We know so little about our own body. We don't even know how this brain works, which, we want to make all the money out of. And it's very, very difficult. And we have to find every single thing, how the brain works, how the body works, how we can use it for our advantage. We only use 3% of our brain. And we have to do better than that. Of course, mobile and web and of course all the Apple devices here. You guys are creating a lot of beautiful things in here. But again, at least in this area, one thing is proven. The app helps you. App help your productivity. App help your life. App help how you live your life in many ways.
Well.
Can move one slide further.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that
Yeah,
here.
sure.
But a lot of innovation still has to happen because now what's happening is we are looking at the device all the time. We are driving, we are looking at our phone, and we are getting into a situation which is dangerous. And most of the time I go, and last time I was in New York, and people are going ding, 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 and then come back. So that was not the way you want to have the interaction with the devices. You have to change that. You have to create better HMI. You have to create a new system which need the interaction with the devices, but you don't you don't have, I mean, you have to completely innovate this experiences. And of course, a lot of work is going in a lot of, especially in Apple, to do that, but I think there is a lot more room to be innovative in this area. But I didn't need to talk about what I do, and you're gonna ask, you're talking about all this innovation, what good you do.
Yes.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit about what we do. So we created the ActiveScaler on the premise that we are living in a generation of instant gratification. We don't want to wait. If you do send a message to this guy, you want it to be right away, with the response right away, and you want to be as interactive as possible. We don't have patience anymore. And this type of culture is creating a very interesting dynamics which require real-time interaction all day, all the time, all the devices, and you can't wait. I mean, some cases this is necessary. I mean, in life sciences, you put a heart monitor in there, and you are missing some beats in 1 second. It's dangerous. You don't want arrhythmia. But in some cases, maybe not necessarily you need to have this kind of a real time. But more and more services, more and more products are coming out, or applications are coming out, which need this real time connectivity. And we thought, okay, the hardware is progressing, the cloud is progressing, all these things is happening. What's going to happen in future? So let's think about that. So where we want the time of all the developers? Shouldn't they be creating something good, something innovative? All these areas which we talk about. Why don't we have a situation where the car drive itself, probably, or if not drive itself, at least have enough sensors around it where they can see what's left in your car, what's right in the car, read all this information for you. Let's say your email comes in, it reads for you, and then it finds out, okay, I am running out of fuel, so I can just go there, and when I'm there, I can buy my grocery, or I can do certain other things, and at the time when I reach to the home, my systems are ready. My AC is ready. My the food is ready. All those things. I mean, we have this imagination. Hundreds of books have been written. Hundreds of people has published all the papers on this area, but we still don't have it. And the reason why we don't have it is we didn't reach to the tipping point of connectivity. The whole hardware, software, and solution has to work together in a real time to make it happen. We are not there yet. We are getting there. So we thought, why don't we create a platform where all the developers can come in and they create a system from their laptop to all the way to cloud, whatever they want to go. So what we thought about is we're going to create a completely open platform. We don't want any specialized patents and all this kind of a system which will stop developers to continue the innovation. So we created the open source platform, and we are creating only specifically for real-time applications. So from the very beginning, you have your laptop or a small machine sitting in your office somewhere. You put our software in there. You start the real-time capabilities. The transaction of 1 byte to megabytes of size, you can do in fraction of second, and then you can get this data back and analyze that through the Hadoop or clusters or inline analytics. You can do all those things and get the data back. And once you try to scale that without changing a single line in your application, you can go to the cloud and it will scale to petabytes of data or terabytes of speed. So we create this completely performance-oriented system to do that. And our hope is, we are launching our product in the July 1st week. And after that, we are hoping that with the interaction of the community, with the interaction of all the big companies, we will learn more how they use the data, how the applications are run, how we create these experiences where everybody can just write, like a single pool of information they can collect and utilize in their application. So that's our goal. We are in a very, very early stages of doing that, and we need a lot of support from everybody, the inputs from all the developers which are here, to tell us how we can do it better. And that's what we are looking for. And this is, we call it ASAP, which is cliche, but ActiveScaler acceleration platform, and it's only designed for real-time IoT applications. And we consider everything connected as IoT anyway. So this is what we do right now, and I'm involved in this particular process and also involved in some small projects helping customers to developed some of this experience working with a company called AAG, working with a company called C Machines, so who actually make the life very, very safe on the road. So I guess I'm almost running out of time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one last thing, which is kind of a tradition on this stage. Everybody tell you do the best, but as a leader, you want the best out of you and out of everybody you are working for. And I can't emphasize enough on this one. Bring the best out of you and yourself and challenge beyond excellence. It's a cliche, but this is very, very, very important. And especially you guys, you're sitting on the top of the world. These are the best companies you can work for. Apple is one of the greatest company, and TCS is doing great in the consulting area. The challenge which you're going to face very soon, and once you get in this top domain, you are alone. You are only one who is doing that. And possibly you won't get any guidance. You won't get anything from some consulting firm or and some study is going to come out, or in the next 20 years this is what's going to happen, and this is how we think you should be creating the future. No, nobody works that way. When you're on the top, you are alone. You have to define your own destiny. You have to define the things which you want to do, you are passionate about, and you think that can do some good. And this is what is needed. This whole place on the top is very, very alone, and it just rely on you. And I would like to say again and again, whenever you think about any system, whenever you think, I want to do something different, think about one thing again. What good does it do? Thank you.
Patients nowadays, and it's a human psyche thing. Yeah. In that context, I want to get your opinion on how important it is to study human psyche or even anthropology and related topics to think about innovation or to actually come up with innovative ideas that may be useful to humankind.
Very good question. And again, go back to the history. Many of you, most of you in India, how many times you hear about the flying machines when you were a kid? All the gods in the history, everybody in Mahabharata and Ramayana was going on the flying machines and throwing the missiles from their hand and doing all these wonderful things. What was that true? Maybe not, or maybe yes. We don't know that. But what it was is imagination. Some person has think about that. Some person have done something about it. And using the history, if you see back, how the Romans win the war and how the whole chain in the history happened consistently with some of these technologies. They actually invented. If you know some of the war history, the very big innovation, especially in the early age, the late age of the Roman Empire, was they created this the arrowhead which has the fire in there. So they actually put a fire powder, and this whenever they throw on the other side, they actually create a lot more fire. And that was actually helping them to win the war. Before you throw some of the arrow with this powder and the chemical in there, and they burn the other side. So all these things happen throughout the history. Every time a person wins, they win because of one reason. Very good example of Alexander the Great. When he come to India and he fight, there was an army of 100,000 people, and he only have about 10-15,000 men in his side. Why he went? Because the people were driven. The people, he has this, this whole long, about I think 10 feet or 15 feet long spears, which he invented for his army. And he learned that, even these elephants you're fighting against, or this is other people, they always go, against those, and with this whole passion to win the world, they win again and again. So all the history tell you, I could go for a million examples in this history. Every time when you create something innovative, and people did, in their time, their resources, the technology they have available that time, using that they have done many, many times. You want to learn from that. And you want to learn how they evolve, what kind of problem they have faced, what kind of challenges they overcome, and what was the motivation for them to do that. If we can understand this thing a little better, as a human, we are still the same. We are only about 30,000 years old in the historical perspective, and creating all these new things. We are in a very, very early part of our own history creation. We have to do a lot more. And I think history tells us again and again, you can achieve a lot of things. Once you start to imagine that and you start to ask yourself, what good does it do for yourself? Any other questions? Anyone?
So, Abhay, can you please share with us any of the failures that you learned from?
Oh, a lot of them.
I'll just repeat the question for the benefit of the audience if they could not have heard me. I was asking you any of the specific failures from which you learned a lot and that helped you in growing further.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, many of them. And again, I'll start with the dual core. When I joined, when we were doing this product, we were so fascinated. We created this small form factor where, we had the two computer fit in there and everything was working flawlessly, everything. And we were saying, we're gonna change the world. We're gonna create this device everybody gonna use and write a tons of patents. And we thought, it's gonna be very interesting. And out of what comes out is, yes, it was interesting. Everybody likes that. Everybody says this is the future, but not now. 10 years later. Why? Because the price point was too high. Production capability and the equipment and the way it was created, it was such a sophisticated engineering, it was very hard to do and repeat that thing at a very large scale. Internet on the phone, the systems was not there. GPRS was the GPRS version A or some AB or some version was there where you just get like a 9 KB of data speed. You can't do a lot of things with those kind of a system. So finally we understood with this failure is there is a timing. Timing is very important in those technology. You can push all the boundaries, but sometimes you have to wait for a whole other ecosystem has to come together. And this is what this is one of the very important tasks. And I was talking to some of my, even on my team many times. Is we have two types of innovation. One we call it moving the mountains. We want to move the mountains, and another is called snowball effect. So where you build this thing on the top of each other. And where we fail most of the time, and most of the people fail when they think they are creating something so innovative, when they're gonna move the mountains and win the world and all those things. It doesn't happen that way. Most of the time you win because you take a snowball effect. You collaborate with other teams, you work with other people outside. You collect all this knowledge, collect all these failures, understand from their experiences, and try to create a snowball effect so that you can learn fast, you can move fast, and bigger you move, the bigger you become, faster you move. And that's how you get to the successes more than failures. And anything comes, problem will come in the moment and in the innovation you're creating, and there will be a lot of challenges. But if you can understand the ecosystem around you, then only it will win. And very good example of the iPod also, I was part of the second iPod team. The first iPod was kind of failure because we just say, the industry was saying, okay, you have this iPod which keeps all these things, but you only have Firewire. And we were saying, Apple was saying, no, Firewire is good, everybody gonna use that. No, people use USB. And the second generation, when I was working with this part, we said, we're gonna use all these open standards. We're gonna use USB. We're gonna use the hard disk, which is a little bit thicker, not 1.8 inch, which is gonna be a little bit bigger. We use 2.5 inch, which is standard, and Seagate and a couple of Toshiba and all these guys were creating those bigger hard disks in millions. Price point was right, and the whole innovation comes and with iTunes. That time Apple was creating the iTunes. So all this ecosystem has to come together, and it took 2-3 years to get there before it becomes a big success. So the important thing is, you can create always a technology or something which says we're gonna move the mountains, but it doesn't mean it's gonna be successful. And that's the lesson I learned from my failures. Don't try to do that. Just try to be collaborative. Try to be innovative with the help of others. Don't try to just isolate yourself and create a technology or move the mountains in isolation. It doesn't work.
Thanks a lot, Abhay.
Thanks.
Thank you, that was helpful.
Thank you very much.